got an Oscar. Not really, but you know, my buddy, he visited, he came in town and he got me this, and it's an Oscar, but on the bottom it says, in recognition of best in social media short films, Activator. Oh, I got an Oscar for my shorts from my friend. It's nice. Welcome back. I realize the hair is getting a little out of control today. That's okay, man. I'm looking like Robbie Sinclair from that TV show Dinosaurs. You guys remember that show? Dinosaurs. It also sounds like they're doing some sawing outside my building. So don't pay attention if you hear that sawing, okay? Welcome back. Today we actually have another gear review for you, and it is another capture card. That's right, man. So we actually got another capture card today, and this is a, let me just get right on into the specs of this guy and let you know exactly what you would get out of this, as well as what you could also get instead of this from the same company, Syllable. Now, I don't really see them online too much other than on Amazon, so take that how you will, but this capture card's coming in from them, and they sent it over, so thank you, Syllable, for sending over the capture card. Looks nice. Now, on the box here, it does show that it supports up to 4K at 60 FPS, but that's for the loop out. Now, that'll also include HDR, so if you need your HDR goods, if you are playing on an HDR monitor or TV or something like that, you can loop through to the TV and get your full signal. It can capture up to 4K at 30 FPS. Now, this does not capture 60 FPS at 4K, only 30, according to the box here, so we're actually going to test that out. You can also capture at 1920 by 1080 over at 120 FPS, so those of you guys that use a dual PC stream, this might actually kind of cater to you. Now, those of you guys that play on 120 hertz screen or something like that, this will actually be really beneficial, so that way you don't get some weird issues going on. If you have something that shoots at 1080 at 120 FPS, here you go. Or maybe you got something less. Now, this camera here will shoot at 120 FPS, but I gotta go to 720. So also with this capture card, you have a little input here for your audio sources. Now, that could be your microphone. Maybe you got a microphone with a little headphone output. You can put that in there. Maybe you got a headset mic. You put that in there. Whatever you need, man. We actually, you have a connection of a USB Type-C. Now, it comes with a USB Type-C to USB 3.0 cable, and it also comes with a little tiny kind of dock thingy, which maybe you get with your phones these days, but it's USB 3.0 on one side and it's USB Type-C on the other. So technically you could probably, you know, connect these bad boys up like this, and now you got a USB-C to USB-C cable. So, you know, keep that in mind. That's an option. Or you got the adapter to go from USB Type-C to USB 3.0 and get your own extension here, or use this little cable, which is the USB 3.0 on one side and the USB Type-C on the other. So inside the box, you also get a manual. This will help you set up how to get this all situated with your computer, make it all run and smooth and all that stuff that you might need. So there you go if you need that. The main course here is the capture card itself, and you know, it's not much bigger than my phone here. You can kind of see my phone that size, and capture card, you know, that size. It's not too much of a different size. So, you know, it's a little bit smaller. You know, maybe it's like an old iPhone 4S or something like that. But anyways, pretty small. It seems pretty nice. It's got a nice aluminum finish to it, so pretty cool. On one side, you do have the HDMI input, and then you have the loop output, which will take your 4K 60 FPS HDR signal and resend it back out to your monitor or TV or whatever you're playing on, or you can just output whatever you're inputting into here to another source, so you can, I don't know, do whatever you want with that. So, you know, technically I could input this into one computer, and I can also send out another signal to a monitor or to another capture card or whatever I want, man. On the reverse side, you do have the USB Type-C connection, as well as the microphone / line out. Now, it says line out. It's meant to be like line in, but it's saying to take a line out from somewhere else and inject it into the input. And here, the little 3.5 millimeter is what you're going to need there. So we're actually going to test this by plugging in. I'm going to go ahead and take my little USB cable. I'm not going to get too crazy deep into capture cards and what makes them awesome and good and whatnot. We're just going to plug and play and see how this works. Now, supposedly this thing does not need any drivers. You just got to plug it in and it supposedly works. Now, this same company actually carries this in a smaller form factor. So if you don't need the microphone input or the loop out, they actually have, like, you know what a cam link is? It's similar to a cam link. It's just like a little USB stick. Plug that into your computer, plug in your HDMI source, and you're good to go for 4K to 30 FPS recording. So keep that in mind. Pretty cool if you need that, and it's a little bit cheaper. So speaking of cheaper, I should probably talk about the price of this bad boy. This thing runs at about 140 bucks, $139.99 on Amazon, as well as their little tinier unit is only $99. So go check those out if you guys need it. Now, again, this will record up to 4K at 30 FPS. So if that's something that intrigues you, maybe for your cameras, if you're live streaming or whatever, cool. There you go. All right, everybody, just wait a second. So basically, this section of the video is actually 3 weeks later from me recording that last little bit. Now, unboxing it showed you what the capture card looked like, and it's right here yet again. This guy, I had some issues with it. Now, the issues that kind of came up was this capture card claimed to do a bunch of different things. Now, as a normal 1080p 60 FPS capture card, it works flawlessly. You plug it in via the USB Type-C to USB 3.0 or Type-C, and you're good to go, man. You stick a microphone in there, record that, or just record the audio coming in from the HDMI source itself. Very, very simple, very easy. And that might be all you need. So if you just need 1080p 60, this card definitely works. But this card also claims to do 1080p at 120 FPS as well as 4K at 30 FPS. Now, I was able to get 4K 30 FPS, but I had to go through an external recorder. Actually, notice now that we're all kind of set up here with our 4K, these cameras were not outputting directly to the capture card. I actually needed some sort of intermediate to be able to capture that 4K and re-output it. This thing did claim to do 4K at 30 FPS. Now, my Sony a7S as well as my Lumix G7 both record 4K at 30 FPS and output via HDMI 4K 30 at FPS. But the problem was that this capture card wasn't seeing that signal, and the only way to get it to see that signal was using an intermediate, which was an Atomos Ninja V. Now, I would also use a Shogun sometimes with this camera here, but I used an Atomos Ninja V or Ninja 5 to go ahead and take my signal from my camera into the monitor, and then from the monitor to the capture card, and now it can see it. So I wasn't able to get any of my 4K signals, any of my cameras to be able to get recognized by this capture card. So this capture card claimed to do 1080p at 120 FPS, and I wanted to attempt to try that. Now, inside OBS, you can actually set your OBS settings to 120, but I wasn't actually able to get the card to recognize any signal at 120 FPS. Now, to get that 1080p 120 FPS, I actually just plugged in my my game PC itself and sent a signal at 1080p at 120 FPS or 120 hertz to the capture card, and it wasn't able to see it. Then I ended up trying to get the 4K signal, and once I went through the whole rigmarole of getting a monitor and all that stuff connected in to actually get it to see the signal, I thought maybe I should try to contact the company and see what's going on. So I went ahead and I contacted Syllable, and then they said, for the 4K 30 FPS direction connection failure, we are trying to find out the problem. Here we tested a few cameras, and the problem is not there. We do not have, unfortunately, the models you are using, and we'll try to lay our hands on one of them. So once I heard back, I actually saw that they said that they had tested some cameras, and I wanted to know what those cameras were, so I asked them what were the cameras, and they ended up not really responding right away, but they did come in with it. We have verified here that if the video setting is changed and 120 FPS could be recorded, even video card could not be changed to 120 FPS. They followed up with the reason is OBS could not read all the EDID info, which I'm not really sure what that meant, but I assume it's just not able to read what the card is trying to get done here. So they ended up recommending that I use VLC, the media player, to go ahead and try to record 120 FPS with this. I tried that. I got a little bit frustrated and I couldn't really get it to record properly. It kept like recording AVI files and whatnot. And I couldn't really convert it. Couldn't really figure out the program to get it to work properly. So that is a potential that if you're trying to record 120 FPS, maybe VLC works. I wasn't able to get it to work myself. They said, alternatively, Pot Player is a good option which reads all supported formats of the card. We also verified that 1080 120 FPS could be recorded with that application. So maybe try that out if you need that 120 FPS. When it comes to streaming, it's not really going to help you out. Most likely, some of you guys are going to use OBS or Streamlabs OBS to go ahead and stream out to, you know, Twitch or YouTube or wherever you're streaming to. So keep in mind that I was not able to get 120 FPS inside of OBS or Streamlabs OBS, which is the normal applications for streaming. They ended up trying to look into why I couldn't get the direct connection from my Sony a7S or my Lumix G7 into this thing to get the 4K signal. And so I kind of waited around and tried to see where this was going to go. I kind of went back and addressed their original email, stressing that they had a camera that worked. I wanted to know what cameras that did work so that I could recommend to you guys, if you guys have this camera, know that it's going to work. After I asked for what the camera was that originally worked in their original email, they finally responded, thanks for the re-record. I ended up re-recording this. That's why my hair is kind of done up and stuff. This is actually like 3 weeks later. About the 4K 30p, you are right that all cameras are having the same bug. Our previous tests are not correct, and no camera can work with this by direct connection. So David here ended up telling me that they weren't actually able to get a 4K 30 FPS signal, and they were kind of claiming that. So that was a little bit of a bummer to hear that they kind of told me that, but then they told me afterwards, 10 days later or so, that hey, we actually don't have a camera that can actually connect to this thing to get your 4K 30. Now, this is just a simple review of the U1000. I actually did a full-on, I did about an hour and a half testing with this device to make sure I kind of figured out if it was working or not. And after all the testing and whatnot, that's what led to my email conversation with Syllable to go ahead and try to figure out what was going on with this guy. So again, this is Syllable U1000 4K 30 FPS capture card, 1080p 120 FPS, but I was only able to get 1080p at 60 FPS. So keep that in mind when going to purchase your next capture card. That specs on paper may not always be what you end up getting. So hopefully these things will be kind of, you know, worked out in terms of bug fixes and whatnot by the time maybe you get this or move on to something else. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Thank you again to Syllable for sending it out. It was cool to review another capture card as always. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.